Hello, this is the luckiest maths teacher in the world. Thank you so much for tuning into this video, which will calculate a percentage of a quantity. So in a previous video, we looked at finding one quantity as a percent of another. So in that, we were trying to find the percent. We took a fraction and converted it to a percent. So this is different. When we're finding a percent of a quantity, we already know the percent. So we just follow these two steps here. We just convert the percent to a fraction or decimal and multiply by the quantity. So the kind of question we might get, let's say we've got 40% of 15. Pretty easy calculation. So all we're going to do is convert 40% into either a fraction or a decimal, and then we're going to multiply by the quantity. The quantity in this case is 15. So we're multiplying because of means times, like you should already know, like a quarter of 40 means a quarter times 40. So 40% as a decimal, I'll do it, is just 0.4. How do we go from a percent to a decimal? If you've forgotten, we just divide by 100. So we just get 40.0, and then we move the decimal point 2 spots to the left when dividing by 100, and then we're left with 0.4. So 40% is equal to 0.4 of means times, so we're just going to times it by 15. And you can use your calculator for this, you get 6. Now, another thing that's really good about these kind of questions, unlike in the previous lesson where we're finding one quantity as a percent of another, we don't need to worry too much about units. Of course, remember in the last lesson, if the two quantities had different units, we had to change the units. But we don't have to do that here. So let's look at some other examples. So let's go ahead and calculate each of these. In each of these examples, I will follow these two steps here. So let's first look at 80% of 120. So 80% as a decimal is 0.8. Again, you just go 80 divided by 100, and then we times by the quantity, which is 120. So 0.8 times 120 gives us 96, okay? If you wanted to convert it to a fraction, if you wanted to convert 80% to a fraction, you just write 80 over 100 times 120. But in all of these, I'm just going to convert it to a decimal so I don't confuse you too much. So let's now do the second one, 2.5% of 240. Same idea. Convert 2.5% to a decimal. So that means I'd move the decimal point 1 spot to the left. And then because I've run out of numbers, I'd put a 0 and move it again. 2.5% is 0.025. Once you've done the first step, convert the percent to a fraction or decimal, you just multiply by the quantity. So I just multiply by 240 and I should get 6. So let's now look at 132% of 75. So 100% is a whole. If I'm calculating 132% of a number, my answer will be bigger than the original number. So the answer I get here should be bigger than 75. So 132%, let's convert it to a decimal. So I can put the decimal point here, move it 2 spots to the left. 132% is the same as 1.32. So I just go 1.32 times 75, and that gives me 99. So let's look at this last example, 99% of 48. So it's okay if you can't do this one or any of these off the top of your head, but I want you to have a think of what should the number be around about. So 99% is just less than a whole. So 99% of 48, the answer should be just less than 48. If you get a number that's way far away from 48, you've done something wrong. So we're not going to change the process here. We convert 99% to a decimal, which is 0.99, and then times it by 48. Should get 47.52. Again, this answer just below 48. And it is. So we know we've done something right. All right, now we're just going to do one question that's slightly harder. Please pause and copy this down if you need. Okay, let's go ahead and do this question here. Of 240 Year 8 students, 80% play sport. Of those who play sport, 25% also have a part-time job. We're going to calculate how many students play sport and also have a part-time job. So we're going to do this in two parts. First, we're going to calculate how many students play sport, and then how many of those have a part-time job. So to calculate how many students play sport, it's 80% of 240. We know how to do this. All we need to do is convert 80% to a fraction or decimal. So as a decimal, it's 0.8, and then times by the quantity, which is 240. So if you put that on your calculator, you should get 192. So 192 students play sport. So of these, 25% had a part-time job. So we're now going to find 25% of 192. So we convert 25% to a decimal and times it by 192. So this one I don't expect you to be able to do in your head at all. It is something you can put on your calculator. Of course, you might notice 25% is a quarter. This is just a quarter of 192, which is 48. So we found 192 students play sport, and 48 of those who play sport also have a part-time job. So the final answer here is 48. We should just write a worded answer to a worded question. So we just write here what I just said to show that you know what the question was about. So 48 students both play sport and have a part-time job, and we have done it. We have answered the question. All right, thank you so much for tuning into this video. This has been the luckiest maths teacher in the world. Have a great day.